Vinci, master genius of the age of genius, the Renaissance. Complex, contradictory, solitary. He dreamed dreams never before dreamed, saw visions the world never dared see. Yet 500 years later, so much is veiled in mystery. When the layers of legend are stripped away, who was this man, Leonardo da Vinci?
Let's stop here a moment. There it is. There's Florence.
A bit small, isn't it?
Yes, but they say a little room can revive a tired intellect. Large one's diverted. Come on.
The Florence to which Leonardo returned that spring of 1500, after almost 20 years' absence, was a far different city than the one he had left. Once it had been the gay, pleasure-loving domain of Lorenzo the Magnificent, with its splendid works of art and its almost pagan abandonment. Now it was scarred by a shadow that had been slowly spreading across its streets for a decade.
Vanity! You shall burn in fire to eternity, for every man is born to die.
The Dominican prior, Girolamo Savonarola, preached his dark sermons in the church of San Marco, terrifying the Florentines with his threats of damnation. In 4 short years, his words brought down the House of Medici and helped establish a republic. The arts, which had been so lovingly nurtured by Lorenzo during his lifetime, were condemned as worldly vanity and consumed in flames.
Into the fire to be destroyed! Every sculpture and picture, all into the fire!
Year after year, Savonarola defied the ever-increasing ranks of his enemies. The Franciscans denounced him as a heretic. The Pope sought ways to silence his voice. Finally, the people of the city rose up against him. Seized and tortured, he was hanged in the Piazza della Signoria with 2 of his followers. His body later destroyed in the very flames he himself had started. And so he died. But Florence would go on, and the city hoped its old spirit would return. However, nothing could ever be the same anymore. An age passed, as they all must. New times belong to the young.
These ropes won't hold. Fix them.
For example, the new Florence was best represented by a young sculptor.
Give me that hammer.
Michelangelo Buonarroti was born to be a direct antagonist to Leonardo. The sudden appearance of this angry genius of the new generation in the limited circle of art-conscious Florence was bound to lead to a confrontation with Maestro da Vinci.
Maestro, he's passing in front of the door. Hey, I recognize them, the 3 magi.
Don't be offended. Looks to me like an old lady.
Their first clash took place in front of an enormous block of marble that had lain abandoned for years at Santa Maria del Fiore. Both men wanted it for a statue. Both appealed to the authorities.
The base is 4 lengths by 3.
4 lengths by 3.
Now, what about the height?
I'm checking that now.
The height is 12. Why didn't you ask, Maestro? Not a bad stone.
Very fine.
Yeah.
Idiot.
They shouldn't leave it out here. It'll crumble away in time. Why are you so interested in this marble? Didn't you write that the painter is much superior to the sculptor? Because the painter exercises his mind while the sculptor exercises his muscles? Leave the muscle exercises for the young and go back to painting.
Just a minute. Here, straighten it out.
You expect me to straighten out all the things you've ruined?
Pier Soderini, the governor of the Republic of Florence, gave the disputed block of marble to Michelangelo, It became his statue of David. As for Leonardo, he secured a commission from the Frati dei Servi to paint St. Anne with the Virgin and Child. As his biographer Vasari tells us,
for 2 days, Florentines filed past the preliminary drawing, their voices hushed as in a church.
Why are you copying it? When did you start appreciating his work?
the drawing of St. Anne, which now hangs in London's National Gallery, is believed to be Leonardo's original.
I wonder what it'll be like when he gets around to the painting.
The drawing is only a start. I'll wait for the painting, which I'm sure will never come.
He was right. It remained a drawing only. Leonardo didn't complete the painting, that we know. Years later, nobody can say just when exactly, Leonardo, apportioning much of the work to his young pupils, painted another St. Anne, similar to this drawing. That one is to be found at the Louvre. Michelangelo's prediction was right. However, nobody could predict who Leonardo's next employer was.
Vinci, who will undertake the commission to strengthen all the castles and fortresses in our state. You are directed to let...
Like so many men of peace, Leonardo was fascinated by war and the men who waged it.
Failure to comply with them will result in our displeasure. August 18, 1502, Cesare.
Cesare was, of course, Cesare Borgia, who, like Leonardo, was illegitimate. His father, Rodrigo Borgia, was Pope Alexander VI, who acknowledged and loved his son, but came to fear him as he grew into manhood. Leonardo joined the 26-year-old Cesare as he began his conquest of northern Italy.
This letter will allow you to pass through our lands. Should anyone challenge it, I will see that he's punished.
It was about this time that his books and his notes began to show weapons and fortifications. It had been exactly 20 years since he wrote Lodovico the Moor, offering his services as military engineer and inventor. In that letter, he had deliberately avoided emphasizing his abilities as an artist. Here, for example, is one drawing that belongs to that earlier period when he designed armored carts that could cut through enemy lines. Though some of his drawings seem to be mere flights of fancy, others prove him to be a prophet in the field of military science. He designed bombs with fins like those used in modern bombardments, multiple exploding shells in an age when cannons fired only huge iron or stone balls, new types of gun barrels, and above all, the machine gun and the tank. This design combined the best features of his original armored cart and his observations of the natural armor of the tortoise. Its most revolutionary feature was its mobility. He avoided the uncertainty of draft animals by creating a system of crank handles to be operated by 8 men. During the time he was in service to Cesare Borgia, the problem that most interested Leonardo was defense. He considered positioning batteries of guns to create what he called zones of interdiction, or to use a modern term, a barrage. He studied castles and moats. The fortifications he designed would stand comparison with present-day blockhouses. But for the most part, Borgia discarded his ideas as impractical. Then suddenly, as abruptly as he had begun his military career, he abandoned it. Leonardo left Cesare Borgia after less than a year of service and went home to Florence. The neglectful conqueror had paid him nothing, and in order to live, Leonardo had to fall back on his savings. In the spring of 1503, he was back in Florence, where at the Banco di Santa Maria Nuova, he withdrew 50 ducats. He did not seem anxious to resume painting, although he had many offers. Those he did accept, he generally delegated in whole or part to his students. He had defaulted on the contract for the St. Anne, which was then given first to Filippino Lippi and after his death to Pietro Perugino. Despite this, Leonardo's years in Florence were of tremendous artistic importance, not only for himself, but also for his arch-rival Michelangelo. In May of 1504, Michelangelo's David was completed. The block of marble he had wrested from Leonardo had become one of the world's most famous statues. The young giant weighed 18,000 pounds and required 40 men and 3 days to move it to its chosen site, chosen during a tempestuous meeting at Palazzo Vecchio, presided over by Pier Soderini.
If you'll all sit down. Sit down! Sit down, everyone. What's your opinion, Maestro Leonardo?
Pietro Perugino has told us that the stone has been in the rain for too many years. Pietro Perugino is right, I think. The marble cannot last. But possibly the Loggia de Lanzi could be painted in some dark color in order to show off the dazzling whiteness of this David, and thereby accentuate
What
it.
do you know? Our great painter is giving advice on sculpture, is he? Well, the Palazzo Vecchio is the site. I don't care about rain. My David is just a boy, not an old man. Why this discussion? Who knows better? A painter? Has he ever stood in the hot sun, sweating like a pig, splitting...
Once again, rivalry had broken out between the two masters. There was only 23 years difference in their ages, but in actual fact, they belonged to two different centuries. Leonardo was of the 15th century, a son of Lorenzo the Magnificent, while Michelangelo belonged to the 16th century, a son of Savonarola. It was a breach that could not be healed because of the proud character of one and the rabid nature of the other. And Florence enjoyed the quarrel as a form of entertainment. The next episode is not found in Vasari, but in an anonymous biography of Leonardo. It happened that one day when Leonardo was still in Florence, he strolled by a table where a number of men were having a discussion of Dante's Inferno. They called Leonardo over to settle a question about a certain passage.
That's very difficult. Puzzles everyone, me included. Sorry.
At that moment, Michelangelo happened to be walking by.
Ask Michelangelo. He knows Dante better than anyone. He'll explain it.
Suppose you explain, too. Maestro Leonardo. Explain to us what happened to Francesco Sforza's statue. You finished the model, but you never cast it in bronze. Well, if I had so little skill in sculpture, I think I'd be as ashamed of it as you were.
You stonecutter, broken nose, buffoon, buffoon!
Sarai, as a boy, I taught you to stop lying. Yet the truth shouldn't be put so violently.
We are in the recently completed council hall of Palazzo Vecchio. Pier Soderini is commissioning Leonardo to paint one of the walls.
This is the wall. This is the wall that you shall paint. And the picture shall show the battle at Anghiari, where the Florentines defeated the Milanese. Smoke, horses, blood, confusion, you know. We leave it up to you. And, of course, we'll sign the contract as soon as possible. Agreed?
Completely.
Now, what about... Well, the first step has been taken.
Did you talk to the other one?
It's all taken care of.
It must be measured. Will you get the papers for me?
Yes, Maestro.
But who is it? Shh.
Who'll paint the other wall?
I thought I told you. The painter will be Michelangelo.
Michelangelo! Oh, that's perfect.
Maestro.
Good morning to you, brother.
Maestro. And to you, Frau Pietro de Novellana. Excuse me for interrupting your work like this. You see, I bear you a commission from Isabella of Mantua.
Ah, from Her Grace.
Exactly. The Marchese wants her portrait done. I've been instructed to offer you any price.
Maestro, I'm sorry, brother.
Maestro. Maestro. This wall is for you. But this wall,
It'll be painted too, but you know who the painter is? Michelangelo. I heard them talking in the other room. And they were laughing about it, Maestro, because they made the same offer to him as they made to you. For a picture of another battle. The Battle of Cascina.
you cannot tolerate such an insult, Maestro. Abandon this contract and accept the Marchese's.
The battle at Cascina.
Leonardo was aware that the main battle was between the artists. The Battle of Anghiari and the defeat of the Milanese was fought 63 years before, but there were still men around who remembered it and wanted to talk about it.
There were 40 squadrons of cavalry and 2,000 foot soldiers. Early in the morning, the patriarch, God rest his soul, climbed the hill and looking towards Borgo San Sepolcro, saw the Milanese army under Niccolo Piccinino starting to march. His men were kicking up clouds of dust everywhere.
Yes, but the battle that the patriarch led wasn't there, but at the bridge, because
Yes, I was there too.
Don't you recall?
Can you recall it?
I can, Maestro, all of it. Even though I was only a boy, I can recall it as if I just fought it now. When a man has grown old, he has so much time to think, and he should have a good memory for all the battles he's fought and the victories he's won.
All right?
Leonardo would attempt to show Florence that he was not limited to saints and angels, or a painter of portraits with soft, diffused outlines. He would show another Leonardo, all claws and fangs. Palazzo Vecchio would be the site of 3 battles: Leonardo's Battle of Anghiari, Michelangelo's Battle of Cascina, and the third between the artists themselves. This was to be his answer to the Florentines and to the youth that challenged him. Michelangelo's battle cry would be matched by his own.
When a bird wishes to fly, it raises its wings and receives the wind beneath them. The wind pushes it on high. So I observed of a bird of prey while I was traveling to Fiesole on March 15th, 1505.
Although Leonardo did not interrupt his painting of the Battle of Anghiari, it was during this same period that he suddenly threw himself with equal fierceness into the great dream of human flight.
A bird is a machine operating under mathematical law. Man has the power to duplicate that machine.
But in order to learn how flight is achieved, he patiently watched the movement of birds for hours. Using only his powers of observation, Leonardo made amazing discoveries which would be confirmed years later by the telescope and the motion picture camera.
There are 2 lines of movement traced by a bird's climb. One is always curved like the thread of a screw, and the other is rectilinear and curvilinear. In order to study the pattern of birds in flight, one must first study the movement of wind, which is much the same as the movement of water. When a bird flaps its wings in order to fly, it raises and lowers the humerus, or upper arm, thereby condensing the air between it and its body. This then exerts pressure and pushes the bird upward.
Some lines which he wrote in his notebooks prove very revealing. Submerged among all the drawings of birds in flight and the observations proving his theories is one of those rare and fleeting phrases, written in haste perhaps, which tells us something unexpected about the character of Leonardo. During this period, he scribbled these words beneath the drawing of a church.
The great bird shall soon climb aloft, high in the sky, rising out of Monte Cesare, pervading the universe with wonder, achieving fame everlasting for its victory over the earth, and glory eternal for the city of Florence. Bird shall climb aloft into the sky, rising out of Monte Cesare, and the universe shall be filled with wonder.
great bird shall climb aloft, high in the sky, rising out of Monte, bringing glory eternal to the city of Florence, filling the universe with wonder. The great bird shall climb aloft, this instrument for flying lacks nothing, unless it be the soul of a bird. This must be supplied by man himself.
But soon this brief dream came to an end. Leonardo was himself again. Precise, distant, detached. In the same small notebook in which he had written the proud phrase, "The great bird shall climb aloft," he now made another entry.
On April 15th, I received 15 florins from the Secretary of Santa Maria Nuova.
This was the real Leonardo. Early in June of 1505, the outline for the Battle of Anghiari was transferred to the wall. The reconstruction you see here may not be correct in its every detail, but in general is probably quite close to the original. For the most part, it is based on sketches that still remain. Two interesting facts have emerged concerning this painting. First, that Leonardo constructed a new type of scaffolding for his work. And second, when he was ready to apply his colors, his arch-rival Michelangelo was still preparing his outline. Then, unfortunately, something happened. He told no one about this. He wrote it down in a long-lost notebook recently found in Spain. In the words of Leonardo, "On the 6th day of June, Friday, I was alone in the council room of Palazzo Vecchio. As I was about to apply my colors, the wind turned into a tempest. Outside, a bell began to toll, announcing an execution. Then the storm broke through the windows, pelting dust on the outline and breaking jars of paint. Heavy rain fell until evening, and the sky was black as night." Leonardo noted these events with bitter detail, as though he felt his great work was being born in an atmosphere of evil. Legend has it that Leonardo's friend and workman, Zoroastro, tested the flying machine without the maestro's knowledge. Supposedly, he launched himself from a precipice, but because of a sudden change in the wind, fell to the ground, seriously injuring himself.
I say it was a great flying insect. Oh, no, a bird, I tell you. I've never seen a bird that big and over there somewhere. Oh, no. Look, there it is. It's a man.
Although this story seems very unlikely, something must have happened which ended Leonardo's quest for flight. After that, no reference to human flight is to be found. His new dream remained a dream. To fly like a bird, to descend back to Earth like an angel, to pervade the universe with wonder. He abandoned these dreams, and the plans he made were lost for centuries.
Come on in.
Another bitter defeat occurred at the
Slow it
same
down.
time.
That's it. Put it down. Maestro, we're ready for the fire.
Although Leonardo promised he would
Put
paint
it
the
near the
Battle of
wall.
Anghiari quickly, he simply would not tie himself to the impossibly feverish pace required for frescoes. That is, painting fresh plaster and allowing both paint and plaster to dry together.
All right, put it down. Now you can go. Hurry, get more wood, more, as hot as possible.
He experimented with a new technique. He would paint in oils and immediately dry them by means of intense heat. If the new system was successful, he would use it on the entire painting.
We're going to need more wood.
About this time, he was also painting a portrait that he carried with him everywhere. As the years went on, he would add to it, little by little, with infinite patience.
You awake? We've done it. No more. Look, it's perfect. This isn't my own method. It was used long ago by the Romans. I read it in one of the works of Pliny. Go on, touch it.
The central section of the battle had already been painted. Now he would apply his new drying technique to the Great Wall itself.
You, come on with those sacks. Move, we need the weight. The wood over there. Where do you want this,
Hurry up with the wood.
You, give them a hand. Bring that over here. Put that timber over here.
You, over here.
Salai, come on.
What about those sacks?
Yes, Maestro. Hurry up.
Where do you want this, Maestro?
Put it over here.
You, get some more sacks. Start the winch.
Over there, I said. Start it. Can that chain take the tension?
I'll see.
We need more sacks for the counterweight.
All right, take a last look at it.
It'll hold, Maestro.
Start it, now. Slowly. You up there, is it holding?
Yes.
This is the last one. Where do you want it?
Right there, that's good.
Do we need anything else, Maestro?
No, take it up. Carefully. Hold those guide ropes, don't let it swing. Not so fast. Up a little more. Put on some more wood. It's got to say red hot. Fine, no more.
It's working, Maestro. It's working. He's right. It's going to work.
Bring more wood for the kettle on the left.
Hurry up.
At this rate, it'll be dry in an hour.
We've done it, Maestro. We've done it. Look, it's beginning to run.
There, over there, where there's no fire. Look!
Oh, my God. Bring more wood.
More wood!
More wood for the fire.
It's not working. The heat can't reach the top.
Bring them down. Hurry, bring them down.
The heat must have the whole wall. That's going on here. It's got to be harder. We don't have enough wood. Bring more wood in. Hurry, hurry.
Bring more wood.
More wood.
Bring firewood. Bring firewood.
Throw it on. Throw on more wood. More. Hurry. The heat still isn't getting to the top.
We have to have more wood. Hurry up!
That's enough. Stop it there.
It's running again. Up there.
Bring it down.
Down. Hurry. Bring it down.
Had Leonardo read Pliny a little more closely, he would have seen these words at the end. This method should not be applied to walls. The heat had not been sufficient to reach the top half, and the painting was completely ruined.
What's all this? What are they doing with these kettles? Cooking soup? Too bad the foolish old man didn't remember the old proverb, children and fanatics abandon all ways.
Who asked your opinion?
You mean you like that mess?
No. As a painting, it's not much. Only no one should make fun of a man like him.
This scene was based on a description by Lamazzo, another of Leonardo's biographers. Giorgio Vasari only says, the paint dripped. In any case, after this disaster, Leonardo decided to abandon the project for good, in spite of the angry protests of the Florentine authorities. What was the Battle of Anghiari really like? It, like many of Leonardo's other works, was destroyed. Apart from our own version of the battle, we can show you other copies. One is in Florence. It's not very detailed. In Munich, there is another copy known as the Doria canvas. It was painted approximately 50 years after Leonardo's death. Its existence proves that the original painting, although damaged, was not entirely ruined. Enough of it remained for a copy to be made. And in the Louvre, this drawing by the Flemish master Peter Paul Rubens. Of all the copies, it may be the most accurate, though we can't prove it. It depicts the central episode of the huge painting. The section Vasari named The Great Battle of the Standard. This preliminary drawing by Leonardo seems to indicate that the Rubens copy is a true representation of the unfinished Battle of Anghiari. However, the painting wasn't really worthy of Leonardo. There's an artificial quality in his early sketches which disturbs us, and a forced style in them which is foreign to the maestro. There's a reason he adopted it. Before he started, he felt that Michelangelo and the other young artists looked upon him as an old man. He felt compelled to adopt their style and defeat them. But it had been a mistake. And perhaps deep within himself, he felt some relief that his work had been destroyed. Of those few years of intense effort to surpass the new generation, to demonstrate he was younger than the young, very little remained. The flying machine, the Battle of Anghiari, gone. So it was natural for the young artists of the day to decree the old man finished. But during those years in Florence, he had also painted a small portrait. It was of a woman in the declining years of youth, still beautiful, calm, and reflective. One hand placed over the other. Behind her, a magical background of rocks and running water. She sat with just the faintest smile on her lips. Who this woman was is not known. Vasari says she was called Lisa, the wife of Francesco di Giocondo. Or is she Ginevra Benci, or the mistress of Giuliano de' Medici? What her name was isn't very important. Was it really a portrait at all? And if so, why was it never given to the person who commissioned it? We know that it was always in Leonardo's possession. Wherever he would go, there it would be. Milan, when he decided to return. France, where he passed away and where the painting remains. The finest and undoubtedly the most precious jewel amid all the wealth of the Louvre. Possibly an actual woman did sit as the model for the painting. The Mona Lisa, or La Gioconda, is a portrait of a Florentine woman, painted by Leonardo in Florence. Why then did he use as the background the Lombardy countryside surrounding Milan? If anything, it confirms the autobiographical nature of La Gioconda. It was Leonardo meeting the arrogant cries of youth with the silence and the smile of one who understands. But was there anyone who would grasp its message, its hidden meaning? One young man proved that there was. A 20-year-old native of Urbino, he possessed the gentle nature and features of his birthplace. He was brought to the studio by one of Leonardo's old friends, a fellow student from Maestro Verrocchio's workshop.
Perugino. Leonardo. How good it is to see you.
He thirsted for all that was beautiful, and he was entirely devoid of all feelings of envy.
Are you staying in Florence?
Yes. This is Raphael. He comes from Urbino. Your painting. He hoped you would show it.
Come.
Did you call, Maestro?
No. In here.
Oh. Ingenious. You designed it, of course.
Yes. It's over there. Come in, Pietro.
It's huge. Why do you need such a large studio?
Well, I don't only paint.
Oh, Raphael,
Come
there
in,
it
come
is.
in. You know, Pietro, I've always been fond of machinery.
How well I remember.
Have you heard anything of Lorenzo?
No, not recently. He was in Florence for some time. I know he was working on a commission for a church. I've forgotten which one now.
I was always fond of Lorenzo.
Now everything has changed. The city's changed. The people, yes, I would even say during the past few years, the thinking has changed too. And not for the better, in my opinion.
You're right. Times are difficult. Life was simpler when we were apprentices in Verrocchio's workshop, wasn't it?
Poor man, dying so far from home in Venice. What are all these drawings?
Oh, just plans for a machine I wanted to build once. It was hanging up there a few months ago.
Look. Raphael. Raphael, what is it? Well, are you satisfied? Come.
Nothing to do. You know, Pietro, I don't feel comfortable in Florence now. It's not my home anymore.
But where would you go?
I'm thinking of returning to Milan. Goodbye, Pietro.
Raphael had been deeply impressed by what he saw. Leonardo's influence is very obvious in two of his most beautiful paintings, La Muta and Maddalena Donni.
Maestro, that man, wasn't he Raphael of Urbino?
Yes?
He kept looking at your painting, and yet he didn't say a word.
No.
On June 1st, 1506, Leonardo left Florence and set out for Milan.
Maestro Leonardo! Stop him! Don't let him pass through the gate! We're instructed to stop your departure and take you to the council room by order of the governor, Pier Soderini.
Count them. Count them if you like. 150 florins. They're yours to keep as a guarantee that I'll return. They're gold. Solid gold. Wouldn't you rather take them over those copper coins you once paid to me? I pay out only in gold. 150 florins. And now that you have security, may I go?
And what about the Battle of Anghiari? You still haven't finished it.
Yes, I was aware of that. Thank you.
Don't forget, you only have 3 months. 3 months.
3 months. Just 3 months to enjoy my liberty.
Just 3 months, and then come back here and complete your agreement with the Republic. You'll finish the fresco for which we've paid you, and paid you well.
How much longer will you need to finish it?
Who knows?
Yet another departure. Was he never to find peace? Leonardo left Florence with a conquered spirit. But how would Milan receive him? Lombardy was now a French province. Its one-time ruler, Lodovico the Moor, was spending his last days in a French prison. However, the violent persecution of all those who had been in the Moor's service, as Leonardo had been, was over. In fact, Leonardo received an invitation to return to Milan from its French regent, Charles d'Amboise. Why he was being summoned, and what his reception from his former enemies would be, he could not tell. He knew only that he had to get out of Florence. His fellow citizens had become strangers to him, in much the same way as his father, his stepmother, and all his family had been. The one exception was his uncle Francesco.
Leonardo!
Uncle Francesco!
Uncle Francesco was now an old man, still living at the family home and doing what he did in earlier days when Leonardo was a child. Nothing. Although heavily in debt and robbed by everyone, he still had a quiet smile for his great and famous nephew, the little companion of his youth, who now stopped on his way to Milan to visit him and let him talk.
Because I'm all alone in the place except for the dogs. We need to have the company of the young. That reminds me. Did you know that Brittoni is dead? He was sleeping just like that young friend of yours. Oh, you remember where the waterfall was? The waterfall isn't there anymore. The river... Where are you going? No, Leonardo, no. Leonardo, take these with you. I picked them from your own garden. I got up early just to get them for you. You'll be hungry on the road.
I haven't
you
any
and your
room.
Friends. Well, you have to have something to eat.
No, Uncle Francesco, I can't, thank you.
Here, Leonardo, take them. Throw away what you don't want.
There's no room. Besides, I know you'll enjoy them better than I.
But why do you have to go now?
Goodbye, Uncle.
But Leonardo!
To Milan, let's go!
Leonardo! The French are in Milan. They're evil. They'll kill you.